Konnichiwa mina, boku wa Jeremy desu. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And today is Act 38, Infinity 12, Infinite Journey. Now this episode was kind of lackluster in some ways in terms of the overall production of it compared to what we've seen lately. It was okay, but there were weaker points to it, and I wanted to point some of those out. The very first part, I would say, actually starts at the beginning of the episode when we get a unnecessary, at least in my opinion, rehashing of the events that have happened since the last episode, or even almost basically summing up what happened in the last episode. It's weird to me how in some of the episodes this season they just continue on, and then like from where they left off, and then other ones they rehash what happened. And I think that it took away precious time for other elements that could have been more investigated, I would say. So we see that Sailor Moon, decided to jump into Pharaoh 90. We see that Saturn was reborn basically because of this, or woken up because of this, and she basically takes Pharaoh 90 and decides that she's going to destroy it. She uses Death Ribbon Revolution, and which is weird because Silence Glaive Surprise is actually supposed to be the power, I believe, that destroys everything. But anyway, whatever. Apples to oranges, right? So now Tuxedo Command and Chibi Moon, okay, they do the opening theme. Tuxedo Command and Chibi Moon are sitting there. They're all upset about what's going on. They're feeling that the world is going to be destroyed. You can see the fear in Tuxedo Command's eyes, and he's upset about Sailor Moon. But if we were to look into the next arc, you would think that he would actually feel physical pain. He is technically the Senshi or guardian of the Earth, replacing a Sailor Senshi of the planet. So he is connected to it. He should feel the pain of it, and we will see in the dream arc that he is connected to it. So it just feels like it's kind of a lost point, or anyway. So he's more upset about that and the world ending and stuff. And Sailor Moon we kind of see just sitting in stasis at the time inside of Pharaoh 90 while Sailor Saturn is basically destroying Pharaoh 90. And Chibi Moon calls out to her, which basically wakes her up. You see the brooch glow, and then she awakens, and you have the theme song start up, and I'm pretty sure it's the Momoiro Clover's version, but I'm not. I think so. I wasn't really paying attention. I'm sure I heard more than one voice, which to me actually made it sound more epic because I like this version with them in it. So you feel Sailor Saturn's omnipotent power. It looks like a giant tornado. Pharaoh 90's ooze going up, and Sailor Moon basically wakes up. We have this huge montage where all of the Senshi uniforms are changing, and they're like, "Oh my God, Sailor Moon is still alive!" And they're she's giving them all their powers. She activates the power of the Holy Grail inside of Pharaoh 90, which basically stops or interrupts Sailor Saturn's power for a moment. At least that's what it looks like. And so as this plays out, or after it plays out and music ends, Sailor Saturn looks back at them and she says that she's going to get Pharaoh 90 and take care of it. Pharaoh 90 is basically begging at this point to be returned back to the Tau system. At least let me go back to the Tau system with the death, destruction, the beauty, the beautiful blackness. And Saturn says, what is it? Really creepily. How beautiful the agony in the moment of destruction. You're a little fucked up. I mean, come on, it's a little bit nuts. But I mean, this is coming from someone who has been basically all alone all her life, the most feared of the Senshi. Sailor Pluto would understand this too, being stuck in solitary all this time. So I'm sure that something like that does things to you a little bit. So anyway, so Sailor Moon and the others are like, Sailor Saturn, what are you doing? What is she thinking? And Saturn's like, don't despair. Sailor Moon, because you have released the power of the Ginzuishu and the Holy Grail, or the Moon Chalice as they call it. I'd call it the Holy Grail. I can save this world. Now, I'm not sure if they meant to say it that way, or if it was meant to be, if it was a subtitle error, and it was meant to be like, you can save this world, or maybe we can save this world together. Because if you think about it, Saturn is kind of the antithesis of Sailor Moon. Saturn destroys things, Moon fixes things, heals things. And so basically she's just saying that. And probably the most key phrase of the entire series is uttered by Sailor Saturn at this point. Hope and rebirth always begin with the end. And this is so true for the rest of it, especially for Sailor Stars, as we'll see in a couple seasons. I am so freaking excited. You have no idea. So let's just bide our time till we get there. Anyway, Saturn kind of realizes that Chibi Moon is having a really hard time with this, but she's like, look, you know what? Don't worry. I bring death, but I also bring rebirth too. And she's kind of relaying this information to everybody, because they always just look at her as the destructive one. They never really realize that she could also have this other power too. But I think what she's more alluding to is that she herself will be reborn. Sailor Moon's kind of the one that heals everybody. So Saturn looks at Sailor Pluto and she's like, you know what you have to do. We have to seal this away, and you're the only one that can do this. Basically, you have to close the passageway to the other world that ought not to exist. And Pluto is very conflicted with this, but she's like, Saturn, and Pluto's like, Saturn's like, no, do this. So Pluto drops to her knees, and you can see the tears. She's in agony over this because she knows what's going to happen. She realizes the implication of this. So she uses Dark Dome Close, which after calling out to Kronos, her guardian, and this is her ultimate power. Now, because it's being used in this sense, it won't kill her like when she used it in the previous arc, because that was, she wasn't meant to interfere there. This one, I believe she is meant to, and so that's what this particular power is for. So she opens the doors, Saturn sends Pharaoh 90 into there, and then Saturn herself goes in there, and then we get the doors closing. This was done very well in the musical. Very, very, very well done. And the song, like, you could feel the emotion when Sailor Pluto was singing it too. My favorite senshi. So they all are really, really upset. Pluto especially, when the door closes, and Chibi Moon as well. And at this point, Sailor Moon goes onto like a pillar and drops to her knees and basically transforms into Neo Queen Serenity, who Tuxedo Command realizes is the Messiah that he's been seeing in his dreams, that Rei has been seeing in her dreams, that basically they all have. But all they saw was the darkness part of it. They didn't realize that she's the one that's going to save them. So this is where this form is coming from, and now they get to see it. And in an instant, basically, the whole city is fixed, except for the Mugen Gakuen building, which is really funny, because if you look at the Trinity there, the Tenno building, the Kaio building, and the Mayo building are still standing, but the Mugen Gakuen one, it's like broken into 3 still. So maybe they just left it in there to give the construction people some jobs. Gotta have jobs in the future. Planning ahead. So, and at this point, of course, Sailor Saturn, or I should say Hotaru, a baby, or comes back as a baby and lands on this giant pillar. And Neptune jumps down to her, and they realize that this is Saturn. Uranus and Pluto jump down as well, and they're like, this is our new mission. We need to take care of this child because she's alone. So Sailor Moon, or Neo Queen Serenity, turns back into Sailor Moon. The Senshi come over as well, and now the way that the subtitles have it, it's Sailor Moon comes up and she's like, who's the baby? But I have a feeling it's more meant to be like that baby. Like, they know who it is, but again, the subtitles have been a bit strange this season, but that's okay. It still has a good implication there. So now they're like, you know what, we're going to be going, we might be nearby, we might go far away, but we'll still be friends, we're still going to be close. Chibi Moon and Pluto have a really poignant moment. Pluto reaches out to her, they hold hands, and it's a much nicer parting than it was in the previous arc, where of course Sailor Pluto died and was essentially the catalyst for Black Lady to turn into Sailor Chibi Moon. So, nice to have that as opposed to the death from the last one. So they all basically take off, and Neptune gives Chibi Moon the Deep Aqua Mirror as a memento, and she can, now this becomes a piece that she could use in Super S, or in the Dream arc. So we'll see this continuation, and that is something really that I'm looking forward to. Is finally the Outers will be included in the Dream arc, assuming that Crystal keeps following the manga, because in the original anime, the Outers weren't in it save for one episode where Uranus and Neptune had a special where they're fighting a guy that has a puppet in a special, and that's just that one. But that was probably what was the most sorely lacking in that particular season, and why it is the least popular of all 5 original seasons. That, and it focuses completely on Chibi Moon, which again... Anyway, we won't go there. So the Outer Century disappear, and now again, this is where they could have used that extra time to, or from the beginning, where kind of I feel that it was wasted. They go running and they're looking at the buildings. They're Sailor Moon and Chibi Moon in the manga, Usagi and Chibiusa go to Haruka's building and look inside, and the apartment is empty. Minako and Ami check on Michiru, but her apartment's empty. And Makoto and Rei look on Setsuna, but of course her apartment is empty. So, and then you see them go away on their choppers, and that's the last scene that you see of them in the manga. But that is, well, up until the next arc, like halfway through the next arc. But that's where, basically, for the moment the Outers leave in the anime, in the Crystal episode, is when the commercial hits at 16 minutes into the episode. So there's like 7 or 8 minutes left, which is really strange time to have the commercials. North American commercials aren't like that at all. It would have been about halfway through. But anyway, so now everything's finished. Everything's back to normal. The girls, I'm assuming it's a couple days later or a couple weeks later, or time has gone by, because now all of the girls are in high school, or they're entering high school. Minako is going to be going to the same school as Usagi, Ami, and Makoto. Rei, of course, is not. Chibiusa writes a letter to her mom and dad and says that she's going to be returning on April 1st because her training is done. And so they all gather together, and they're in the park, and they have this adorable, cute moment where Usagi is, okay, first of all, they keep this iconic picture. Let's see if I can get it. Ooh, yeah. Basically, where Usagi is hugging her friends, and they're all talking about their excitement, and Usagi has these, like, I think they're called marachas, she's like the shaker things, and the music's playing, and she's so happy that they're all going to be together, except for Rei, of course, because Rei's going to her private school. And then Rei, Ami, and Chibiusa all make cracks about her failing and all this stuff, and the music kind of falters and stuff as they're doing this to really get that emotional impact of it across, and it's just a really funny moment. And then Minako comes over, and it's like she's going to cheer her up, and she's like, Usagi, I'm so happy to have a fellow failure. And Usagi's like, oh my god, why did you put it that way? And they're like, yes, keep going to failure, like keep pushing for failure. And it's funny. It's just a cute little moment, and it's a nice way to end off the episode. Mamoru, of course, is going to university. They don't mention it in the episode, but he's going to be a first-year pre-med student at Keio University, and Ami is in awe of this, and she's like, I have to work hard for this. And then they realize that Chibiusa's leaving, so Usagi's like, okay, we're going to go say goodbye to her, and then each of the inners gets a chance to say goodbye. Minako wants her to bring them presents from the 30th century. Ami says come back soon. Makoto wants her to stay at her place next time, and Rei wants her to give the best to her mom and dad. So they all leave, and they're going along, and they realize that there's this eclipse that's going to be happening. And we have this cute little family moment. Before this, though, there's Sakura Blossoms, which I should have mentioned earlier while they're all saying their goodbyes. And that's right around Sakura festival time. I was in Japan for this time, actually, for April 1st. And so that's why there's Sakura Blossoms. And you see them all over the place. It's really neat. So, they're walking along, and Diana's there too, and Diana thanks them for taking care of Small Lady, and they're like, oh, where's Luna and Artemis? And you see them, they're really upset, which is really sad. They're still in the control room because they don't want to say goodbye to Diana. And it's really sad, but poignant and funny. So they're going along, and there's no mention of Luna P like there is in the manga, but they just don't bring her up in this. And they're like, or Mamoru's like, oh yeah, that's right, there's a new moon coming in today and it's going to be covering the sun, and I'm so glad that I get to witness this moment with my family, with the two of you. Now in the manga they have black pencil boards that they're handed out to look up at the sun while this is happening, but in modern days they get eclipse glasses to modernize it a little bit. And so they're looking up there, and Chibiusa hears this bell. And she's like, what's that bell? And they're looking up there, and they're seeing it, and then they hear the bell again. And Usagi kind of hears it too. She's like, what the heck? And they turn around, and they kind of look, and something's about to be there. And the episode cuts out into Eternal Eternity, not the tuxedo porn music this time, which is good. And I think they did that on purpose. I think they were kind of gauging what people's reactions were to all three of the ending themes. And obviously this one was the most popular one, and it was a fitting end to this particular arc. This one has been a wild ride. They have not, and I think they did this on purpose, just in case there wasn't going to be another arc, but I'm pretty sure there will be. They did not show this scene where Usagi and Chibiusa meet up with Pegasus. This is the ending part of the chapter, so they are supposed to see him, and Mamoru also is supposed to see him too, and that's where it's supposed to end, with Pegasus saying, beautiful young maiden, I finally found you, but they're leaving that for the next season, I believe. So hopefully we'll get some information on that. Fantastic series so far. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and I will see you tomorrow. Jamatane, mina.